You guys, what up, what up, what up, what up, what up, man? We're back in here for another weekly Stay Black episode. Hopefully, everyone is doing fine, everyone is doing good, everyone is doing cool, cool, cool. So, hopefully, we should be getting a few more people to try and jump in. Hopefully, if they can, i.e., Corey, 12 people that he wants to bring in as well as hopefully Ray. So, we'll just see where we're at all the way through because this is off the cuff, so we're right through. So, just the topics that we're going to cover, we're going to really do a recap on the VP US debates. So I definitely want to just get the American perspective because I feel that I have a view as to how it went down. But for other people who feel like it went down differently, you can maybe tell me. I want to do also a deep dive into Kamala Harris and what people think about her because I have a particular kind. She's a funny one. So I want us to really dissect her and what we really think about her as a politician, as a personality, and so forth. And also this whole Trump COVID debate thing, because I was looking forward to the debate this week. They said the guy is COVID free, so why can't he have the debate then if he's COVID free? And also maybe last thing as well, because this was something that it keeps getting brought up, and someone said it in a passing comment on Twitter about how homosexuality is a choice. And I was like, what? So I wanted to maybe through and do a deep dive into that as to what we think about that topic of homosexuality being a choice. So again, shout out to our guys who are here, of course, Tony and Hitman. And then, hopefully we can try and get a few guys to come in. And also, if anybody in the live chat wants to join in on this, hit me up, and then I'll probably post the link in the live chat as well. I'll probably post a link in the live chat as well if anybody feels confident enough to join this discussion. It's open for all. So let's jump off first with the VP debates then. All right, let me just so because see, here's the thing, because a lot of people have some different viewpoints as to how this VP debate went. And here's my thing. Now, one thing to be clear of and one thing to understand is that politicians lie. They lie. That's what they do. So I cannot judge anyone based on, is this person telling the truth? Are they not telling the truth whatsoever? But here's my thing. I thought Mike Pence did a lot better than I thought he would have. Not saying that he won, but I thought Mike Pence would get lubricated. I thought this guy would get totally pimped up because Trump, this is his forte. Trump, he's one of those guys that this is what he does. He is one of these guys that really performs well on this kind of stage. Mike Pence isn't that kind of dude. He does not have the kind of charisma or swag that Trump has. So I thought he performed a lot better than I thought he would have. But from my viewpoint, hence why I want us to have this discussion, because I was seeing differing opinions on Twitter. From a perception point of view, I felt Kamala Harris won that because I felt that she controlled the narrative a lot more. She was much more in control, and she was able to really cut out Mike Pence when Mike Pence was sort of like interrupting her, cutting her over. So she just seems to have a much better handle. And maybe this is the thing. Maybe it's because I'm comparing her to Biden, because Biden, who I thought was trash in the first debate, and I really don't think that he should actually do any debates whatsoever, because that guy, I told you, he can't finish a sentence. So I think the contrast between Biden and Kamala Harris was so vast that maybe that was what sort of colored my review and analysis of how I thought the debate went. But for me, I felt like Kamala Harris won it. But then a lot of people said, no, Kamala was nasty, she was this, she was that. Mike Pence clearly won. I was like, wait, was I watching the same debate? So that's my thing. So let me go first to Hitman. So Hitman, in your view, who do you think won that debate between Kamala Harris and Pence, if you're being sort of objective?
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't really look at the debate in its entirety. I looked at highlights. Pretty much from the highlights I saw, it was pretty balanced. It was like in terms of like points that both sides brought. Now, what you will see, what I did notice though, from people who saw the entire debate, especially since I actually have a very diverse like group of people that I deal with. So like, I have a lot of conservatives and a lot of conservative friends and a lot of liberal friends, and it pretty much was split down the middle on their opinions on who they thought won and who lost. Like all the conservatives were saying that Mike Pence won this and destroyed her. The other ones are saying that like that Kamala Harris won this and
So I mean, but do you have any kind of independents who are neither left nor right who give a viewpoint, like any kind of independents who sort of?
yeah, but the thing as well though is that when you talk to a lot of independents in America, especially, I notice a lot of them are more right leaning than like people that you normally deal with. So like a lot of the quote unquote independents I have, they're more right leaning. So they were leaning more towards saying, oh, Pence Pence was kicking her ass and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So I mean it's really hard to say, especially like with only the highlights.
Okay. Tony, what about you? Who do you feel felt what won this VP debate?
So first, I want to say I know that in our last conversation there was a broad consensus that that Black people in general are a little bit more sophisticated in realizing that we don't necessarily need representational politics. And I want to say that from watching the debate, I think that Kamala showed how junior of a senator that she is, because a lot of the focus of her arguments were on Trump, and it was a vice president debate, and she didn't focus in on Pence. And I think the point that she really should have drove in on Pence was when the question was posed, well, both presidents are extremely older, so that means that the likelihood of you then transitioning into their position is of importance. So have you had that conversation, and what should you focus on? And I felt as though Kamala Harris was not prepared in a sense that Pence was compared, because he actually attacked her career as an attorney general.
Oh no. That was a body blow.
Right. And I think that Kamala Harris, again, showing that she wasn't the greatest debater, because again, I almost felt as though she forgot who she was debating. I think that she came with the intent of just never Trumper arguments, rather than focusing in on Pence, who was a governor for 4 whole years, who was a part of the House of Representatives for almost 12 years. So there was plenty of rhetoric that she could have really honed in on. I was very disappointed in the way that she kept stating that, oh, well, I'm not going to let somebody, what did she say? I'm not going to let someone lecture me on prosecution, blah, 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 as if she didn't even know that Pence used to be a lawyer, specifically corporate law. And I think that, again, if she had been more prepared, it would have been great. Other than that, I feel like the only points that Kamala Harris really won was really honing in on the caricature of Black womanhood, Black motherhood, even though she was not raised by a Black mother.
I mean, we'll get there. We'll get there because we're going to deeper into Kamala, but just focus on the VP debate. But we will get there.
Right. So, and I want to point out that at the time that everyone started focusing on the fly and whatnot, I think that there were some very poignant points that showed this really staunch paradigm that we find ourselves in, where with either candidate, you really should not feel comfortable. Pence made the statement that America has the cleanest water, which Kamala, if she really was for Black people or for low income people, she would have brought up Flint, but she did not, because that would have been an indictment on Obama and Democratic candidates or politicians in general. And likewise, when Kamala Harris made the argument that she went after big banks, clearly, I think that she somewhat did, but then by the time that she went after big banks, a lot of low income families had already lost their homes, and it was too late, particularly Blacks and Latinos. And I think that at that time, Pence could have pointed that out. However, one of the bigger people that she should have went after was Mnuchin, who is the state treasurer. But of course, she can't point that out. He couldn't point that out because they're all embedded with one another. So I think that it really highlighted how either way, you're not going to be saved with whether you vote Democrat or Republican. And I think that that was a really poignant thing that should have been pointed out, on top of the fact that she openly admitted that they are in a coalition with 7 Bush cabinet members, which I thought was very weird. On top of the fact that I think that in general, especially if you're going to talk about people who have a legacy of racism, yada yada, and of course telling everyone that Trump wouldn't denounce, the KKK and whatnot. I distinctly remember us believing that Bush was just as equally racist, and here you are, saying that you have Bush cabinet support as well as John McCain's wife's support, who John McCain was very against, MLK Day and things of that nature. So I don't think that she made a very valiant point in demarcating the difference between Democrat or
No,
Republican, nor did she
but real
really
briefly, Tony, but what
okay.
if it may have been a tactic that was given to Kamala where the Democratic Party may have said, Kamala, we want you to go for Trump and we want you to really, because for me, as I said again, Biden can't finish a sentence. So they said, like, let's use this opportunity to really show the world on this debate stage to rip away at the misgivings and the shortcomings of the Trump administration. So do you think that it may have been a Democratic tactic to use Kamala, who is a far better speaker than Biden, to really sort of put a mirror on Trump's shortcomings?
So to that, I would say that I think that aside from now the gifts and the memes that are all surrounding her facial expressions, which I found very unprofessional, I think that it just really highlighted that Pence was more calm, cool, and collected.
Okay. Corey, thoughts on the VP debate? Who do you think won it?
I think it was a draw. I mean, both had their strong points. Both much better composed than the presidential debate. Tony hit on a couple of things. Her talking points were a little vague, a little bit off. She didn't really attack. I didn't even think about it, Tony. You brought up something good. Thanks for bringing it up. She wasn't even debating that. Oh, dude, I just thought about it because I did watch it. I watched it from beginning to the end, including the little fly, which social media had a field day with.
That was hilarious, man. That was hilarious.
It was. I was like, what the hell? I even had a guy send me a link to like some like robotic fly. I have to send it to you. Some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the robot on top of his head talking to him, telling him answers through his head. I was like, what the hell? But like, what you smoking? I don't want none of that shit. But I thought it was a draw. I don't think either one of them won. I think she was not nearly as prepared as she should have been, and she did not know her enemy. Quite simply, I think she did not know her enemy very well. That said, I think I'll also agree with Tony. I was just telling this to a friend the other day. Boy, you can't tell. I think you had to call them Republicrats. Boy, you can't tell the difference between them. There's some slick heads from the guns there.
Yeah, they look similar, bro.
They
do look similar, man.
Yes, they fit the part.
It's all about agenda with that. I mean, because like the big thing is that both the Republicans and Democrats right now, they're trying to distance themselves from like all the shit that's going on with rioting and protesting, because they're trying to get the moderate vote. That's the real thing.
Yeah, right. Okay, so Corey, so in your view, you felt it was a draw. You don't feel anyone sort of won it based on what you saw?
No, the one thing I was happy to see was Pence held his composure. Honestly, I can't say that I've ever heard the guy speak very much. I think that's probably the most words I've ever heard him speak.
100%. That is the most I've seen that guy speak, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, I thought I was the only one, right? So okay, I thought I might have been missing a few things, but yes, that is the most I've ever seen the man speak at one time. Even in a solo interview. But I like the way that they compose themselves and then get all childish like the president and Biden did. I did like that. I think that was good for the nation. But then again, they're vice presidents. You know what I mean? We voting for the president, so I don't know how much effect that had on any one voter's opinion. As far as which way they're going to do. In other words, I don't know if either current vice president or Vice President candidate Harris, I don't think they did the party any good as far as, swaying voters one way or another. And even if you're on the fence, I don't think they did anything for that.
Okay. And we have Heather here. So Heather, thank you for joining us in this. So in your view, who do you think won that VP debate then, from your point of view?
I'm honestly not sure. I'm kind of just in here to kind of like hear more about it because I didn't get to watch all of it. So.
Okay. So you didn't watch the VP debate then. So, but did you see clips or anything from the debate?
I've seen a little bit, but not enough to really give a full opinion on.
Okay, no, well, that's fine, that's fine. But maybe you can give one on this. So I now want to move over to Kamala Harris. Now, we've seen much of her already. We've seen how she's been presented and everything. Let me just come out and say this. I believe that she is a very intelligent lady, carries herself well, and she's very astute and she's very, very sharp. You know, a lot sharper than Joe Biden. But this is my issue. And I think this is a very political tactic. And I just find it very sad that people are falling for it, specifically black people as well. Because, no, even it's because it's such a tactic because she is presented and she is really presented as this kind of figurehead for women and for black people as well. Specifically black women, but also women as well. That, you know, she's a woman. This is what she's doing for lady. Oh man, she's so sassy. Yes, go girl. All this kind of stuff. And at the same time, you know, this is the first black woman and so forth. But when you really dig deeper, and I think Tony sort of alluded to it, she has issues with her black father. And she is much closer to her mother, her Indian mother, obviously, who's unfortunately dead now. But she is more in tune with her Indian heritage than she is with her black heritage. So she is using this already the Democratic Party is using this as a kind of manipulative tool to sort of get people in. And I think even as I saw the debates, even if I feel that she came off better in the debates, there was still something very political about it. And you can see that she's very calculated in how she's trying to do it. And she is very much a political game player in how she's trying to go through this. So, to Hitman, in your view, from what you've seen, interviews, so forth, what are your feelings towards Kamala Harris?
I'm just gonna say this: she's a politician
Through and through.
And pretty much like, yeah, she was attorney general. She was grooming herself for this position, basically for the big leagues and for the prime time, to be honest, because when you look at like everything she's done, everybody she's talked to, she's like the constant changing of sides, positions on different things, joining forces with Joe Biden, who she called a racist, and she called basically a sexual predator. Like, in addition to that,
but Hitman, people will say, hey, it's just politics. I mean, once we go off this debate stage, we're all friends. But once we're on the stage, the gloves come off, and we can just say everything that we need to do in order to win. It's almost like boxing. After the bell rings, after the 12th round, we're friends. But during the fight, I'm here to knock you out. So,
yeah, but I mean, the thing about that though is that yeah, for politicians that's a good thing. But then again, you got to remember the audience. The audience are the people, and the people don't. And while the masses may forget certain things, there are people in the masses that will remember everything. There'll be at least one person that remembers everything, and they'll bring that up when the opportunity shows itself. I mean, look at all the stuff that's showing up with Biden, and all the stuff that's showing up even with Trump, and all the stuff showing up with any politician that sits in a stage of power. So people have to be very careful about what they say and when they say it. I mean, and it just shows that like how much can you actually trust her? Because I mean, like, part of the thing with her is also like her track record with the black community, because the black community hasn't forgotten all the shit she's done in terms of like basically putting away
the point
people.
That's the point that Pence brought up, and she couldn't respond to. That's what my brother was saying. That was the point where Pence brought that up. She didn't have a response.
Yeah, it's I mean, here's my thing. One of the big points she has going for her is that she's not Trump and she's not Pence. Like Trump, so it's gonna come down. So really, in order for her game plan, she's really going to have to like make amends for a lot of that stuff, at least show the image that she's making amends for that shit if she wants to get elected. And it's going to be the same thing with Biden. They're going in an up. The crazy part about it is that with all the fuck ups that are going on with Trump and with Trump and Pence, Biden and Kamala Harris aren't doing good for themselves to make up for those fuck ups. To like basically take advantage of those fuck ups. That's really what I'm seeing.
Okay. All right. Tony, your thoughts on Kamala?
So again, I think in general, she is there not because of any particular policies that she's done or any victories that she might have won in the courtroom, but specifically because the Democrats went out on a limb and created this whole campaign behind just simply getting a Black woman in the purview or close to the office of power. And I think that she's mostly there because of name recognition. And unfortunately, had the Democratic Party more so, had the Democratic Party paid more attention to her polling when she was running for president, then they would have been aware that people were not really that interested in her. So I do find it very odd now that people are sort of throwing out these tropes that, she's all Black woman, hear her roar kind of thing. I think that Pence did a very good job, again, being prepared for the debate and pointing out her voting record. I think another piece of conversation that is so oddly being left out of conversations surrounding the debate was when Pence pointed out that Tim Scott, a Black Republican, put out a police reform type of bill, and she voted against it. Now, mind you, I understand that there could be some components to that could have been fishy or whatever, but particularly being one of only 10 people that voted against it, I think that was the time she should have defended herself. But I think much to the point of one video clipping that you can find on YouTube where she specifically says, I'm not going to do anything specifically for Black people. I'm not just going to sit here and say what I'm going to do for Black people, as if every other presidential candidate doesn't have a plan specifically for Black people or Latinos or, other Midwesterns in general. I think that's very questionable. And I think that in general, it speaks to Black politicians not being able to outwardly, be proud more so of being Black and actually, stepping up and protecting other Black bodies. But to that point, I think that part of what was genius about what Pence pointed out was that about 67% of politicians that we know now, including some Supreme Court justices and whatnot, were previously state prosecutors. So they were defending the state and the establishment. And I don't think that Kamala Harris is in a position to say that there needs to be reform when she was, when most of her career was based on protecting the establishment as is. She was practically the face of the police force. So I think that speaks volumes. And as well, Pence, again, showing that he did his homework, pointed out that, hey, there's inconsistencies with what you believe as far as the healthcare plan, as well as the new Green Deal. And she couldn't even really speak to that. And I think even when Pence pointed out that, hey, Biden is known for, copying other ideas and whatnot from when he ran for president and copying whole speeches to when he was in college, copying papers and all of that stuff. I think that Kamala is in the same predicament, which is why they mesh so well, because most of her plan for healthcare and whatnot mimicked that of Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. So she lacks originality. And I don't think that she's the best that Black people have to offer, let alone what Democrats have to offer.
But do you think that matters to voters, specifically voters who hate Trump so much? Do you think they really care about, oh, she's not original, she's copying plans? Do you think that's just as long as the perception and the optics are right, they'll still vote? They're not going to look beneath the substance of it.
I think that the idea that people are not looking into that is a grave mistake that we made back in 2016. At that time, people were like, oh, well, Trump is so stupid. Hillary's just going to get in here and win it. And I think to think that people are not fed up with the establishment, which Kamala Harris in fact represents, would be a grave mistake for us to make, and just assuming that we don't care. Now, I will say, again, in the last conversation that we had, it was pointed out, oh, Black people are a little bit more sophisticated than that. We're not just going to vote on her just because she's Black, blah, blah, blah. I do think that the Black people are going to stick with her in general through thick and thin, despite truancy laws that she put in place that affected homeless mothers who couldn't get their kids to school, school, or even sick children who couldn't really come to school. And so she was throwing mothers in jail. So I find it perplexing that Black women, Black mothers in particular, even relate to her. But outside of the Black community, I think that people are going to notice that there are some similarities between the establishment. And one thing that I would point out, which was a fallacy on Pence's part, which is basically he kept trying to associate her with liberalism. I don't think that with her record, she's a liberal. I think that he was using that as a talking point to sort of hone in on like, hey, Republicans, I know Trump is crazy, but she's far left.
We wouldn't want this ultra liberal, blah, 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 blah.
Right, which I think that she's the complete opposite, which again, I think that was his main fault, was that he did his research, but then again, using that, trying to connect her to Bernie Sanders, I thought was a bad idea for him in general. But I think that white voters are going to look at Kamala.
I was gonna say that there's a false narrative going around saying that both her and in a long.
Hello, Hitman, we lost you. Hello. All right, maybe we can try and get him back afterwards. So, Heather. So because obviously you maybe have the female perspective. So as a woman looking at Kamala Harris and so forth, what is your perception? What is your view for her? Do you think that this is a great thing for women, for a female politician to be there? Or are you like, which is similar to people with Hillary Clinton? Because I was surprised by the amount of women that hated Hillary Clinton and really fully went against her. So what is your view as a woman and just in general of Kamala Harris?
I mean, I'm basing off what you guys have said, and I mean, if a woman's going to be in that kind of position, I feel like they I don't know. Based on what y'all said, I don't know that I'm really that super excited about it with her. So,
and why? What makes you not excited about her? Like, what is it about her that doesn't sort of say, you know what, I'm going to support her as a woman and so forth and everything? So, what is it about her that sort of makes you iffy?
I mean, like I said, I don't know. I don't want to give like a full on opinion because I don't know that much about her. But I guess it's just kind of, I mean, just from what you guys were saying, like, I don't really know. I'm not a big political person, so I don't really have a lot of perspective.
Wait, let me ask you. Wait. Did you vote for Hillary?
No.
Why didn't you vote for Hillary?
Because I didn't know enough about her to vote for her, which is why I'm trying to get more into learning about politics, because I don't know a lot about it. So I'm actually like, a friend of mine asked me to join this so that I could learn more and like kind of get more perspective on it.
No, because my thing is that, because I'm coming from the angle, because look, a lot of people vote for people because, people who knew nothing about politics voted for Obama because he was black. Loads of people voted for Hillary because she was a woman. So you're more of the mindset of like, even if the person is a woman, I'm not going to vote for that because she's a woman. I'm going to vote for based on what they're about and their policies. So her being a woman doesn't say, hey, I want to be part of this whole woman-female thing.
No, because I feel like a lot of women want to, vote for the woman because we want a woman in there. But if it's not the right woman, then that's not really going to look good for women in general. So it has to be the right woman that gets in one of those positions.
Okay, that's fair. Corey, Kamala Harris, thoughts on her?
I think that her track record is not that great in regards to the black community and some of the things she's done out there in Cali. I think she's playing very well off that woman of color thing, because we do, specifically as black people and Latinos for that matter, tend to gravitate toward our own more so than whites do in politics. They don't care about that. They party man. You voting red or blue or whatever, they're gonna rock with you. But for the most part, or by default. But I think that she's riding that pony real tough. She's really riding that. I see a lot of people in some of my private groups that are, black centric and stuff that don't know much of it. They're like, yeah, go ahead on, sister girl, go ahead on. We're gonna have another black woman in there.
Yeah. And she's half black. She's half black. She's not fully black. She's half black, but
Right. And then realizing that, let's face it. I mean, the Afro-American is different than the African themselves. Would you agree with that? Being
yes.
You know what I'm saying? And so, not that we are too terribly different in in genetic makeup, but as far as how we think and stuff like that. And the Afro-American in America can be kind of fickle, in that regard, going out. Because I mean, you running back to when Obama was voting. I mean, we had people, I'm voting for him just because he's black. You damn right.
Yeah.
And I
don't know anything about his policies, nothing about his policies or whatsoever. Just, hey, he's black.
Didn't give a damn. Didn't give a damn. And him being in the same boat, I think, in the same boat, I think that some of us may have not necessarily made a mistake, but didn't think that all the way through. And we tend to do that politically, which is, why even myself, later on in life, over the last 10, 12 years or so have gotten more involved in it. Because admittedly, I was one of those ignorant black folks that say, oh, yeah, shit, man, I'm vote for Jesse Jackson. I don't give a damn. I'm vote for all Sharpton. But I think that's wrong. I think, and she's riding the hell out of that pony, but I think she knows that.
Oh, she knows. She's very intelligent. She knows that very well. She knows that she's playing the game.
And playing the hell out, like I said, she's riding the hell out of that pony, pal. And I think that's gonna come back to bite her in the ass because, like Brother Tony said, she's not very clear. Her policies are very ambiguous, right? They're very, mixed of everyone else. She's not super well researched on a lot of the policies and topics that will, in fact, affect the base, what I would call her base, which is the black vote in America, the POC vote, in America. So I don't know, man. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens with this lady, in politics. She's got the image, she's got the Claire Huxtable mannerisms down, but let's see if you can back that up with some real action and come out and support, this community that's showing you love, that's showing you love right now. Because you damn sure going to get every AKA vote on the street. You know what I'm saying?
I wanted to jump in because actually, I had issues with my phone with power, but I was going to bring this up. So Biden, the big thing you can notice with Biden, and I brought this up before, but the big thing you can notice with Biden and Harris is that neither of them are liberals. They're not liberals. They're not progressive. They're not even run of the mill liberals. These are centrist, and I would even argue that Kamala Harris is center right. And that's one. They're really what they're doing is, and I think the DNC pushed both of them in order to basically push a narrative that they do care about.
Yeah, but basically, it's the best chance to win the election. So it's how can we turn those red states into blue? Maybe these are the guys with the policies that aren't too leftist, because again, Sanders or some of them may be too scary and too frightening to some of those guys who they want to now bring over to try and turn those states from red to blue.
Because let's be honest, and this is even for people who support groups like Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter is extremely liberal. It's extremely liberal, and it's extremely progressive. And then on top of that, you're throwing the people who are the bases that support people like AOC and like Sanders that are scary to the rest of the states. I mean, because what they're doing is that they're trying to they're trying to win the electoral game here. Because you can get the popular vote by winning if you can win all the votes in California, all the votes in New York, and a good amount of votes throughout the rest of the US, you can dominate that. You could dominate the popular vote. But then again, if all the states in the middle literally are just red as fuck, and some of the swing states turn red as fuck, like Florida or Michigan or so on, or Wisconsin would be one of the ones that would be a swing state. If you hit none of those swing states, you basically have no election, because those are major spots where they gain those, because everything in the middle is going to have electoral votes, and a lot of them will go more towards red. So it's really trying to get as many states to go blue as possible.
Okay, all right. MB, thoughts on Kamala Harris?
Well, she made her career on the backs of prosecuting brothers for drug charges that even if it, first time offenders still got the max because she was trying to song and dance, perform and show people that she was tough. So,
but my thing is that if this is true, then why are black people so much in support of her then? If we know that this is what she did.
Because she shares our skin. Because she shares our skin. Now, mind you, she's not even African American, half African American. She's half Afro Caribbean. Yeah. West Indians don't fuck with us. At least where I'm from. You call a West Indian African American, they are ready to fight. Just like you call a Puerto Rican Dominican or vice versa. People who actually know where they're from, they hold that shit dear. So it's a big thing that I think even, black folks look at her and see a black woman. And that goes back to a conversation we had a while ago, if you remember, with the Kardashians and what people think they look like and everything.
Yeah.
I think it's part of that. At the end of the day, it's tribalism. At the end of the day, it all comes down to people are rocking with her because she looks like them and because the other people don't.
And it feels like a victory for them that, hey, someone who looks like me is in a seat of power, therefore I have more self-worth.
Yeah, I mean, if you remember back in the day, I think Sam and I were talking about this before. We were talking about how back in the day every brother had an Africa medallion in the late 80s, early 90s, right? And every brother was like trying to boycott Reebok because of apartheid, right? But nobody really gave a shit. It was just more of a fuck whitey situation. They don't look like us. These people look like us, so we're gonna rock with them. We're not gonna rock with these other dudes. That's all it really comes down to. I 100% do not think that her record in the black community, because you see the Republicans keep trying to bring it up, and it's like black folks are like, yeah, we're not talking about that right now. It's because the important thing to them is getting somebody who looks like them to a higher level, because everyone feels 100% that she's really going to be the one running the country, not Joe.
Oh yeah.
And Joe's a heartbeat away from death. That puts a black woman a heartbeat away from being the most powerful person, the most powerful human being on the world. One heartbeat away, and it's a person who looks like you.
I was talking with MV about this, and I was talking with with my other buddy Corey about this, who comes on the show. That let's be for real for a second here. How many black women are actually going to vote for Trump? Like with a straight face, how many black women do you think are going to?
Well, there's that deal. What's it called? Silk and Diamond or something? Those two. Like there's these two black ladies who are like full on Trump's. I mean, apart from those two, I don't know. They got
distance. They got distance though. The Republican Party fully like they. Oh. I think they went too far. I think something happened. They went too far and they got like disavowed. And they said, "Hey, we still gonna be supporting Trump." Or they kept playing the minstrel.
So it's really Hitman. Finish your point, Hitman.
But that's the thing. Like, I mean, like the black vote, when it comes down to it, like, yeah, it's easier to win black men, like for people like Trump to win black men because of things such as the economy and empower and like basically putting on that whole thing of like hard work and whatnot. I mean, mainly because of the economy, I would say primarily. But black women, they're not gonna play that bullshit. They're not. They already think he's fucked up. He's like long gone. I'm in a family of a lot of black American women and women who are of Nigerian descent, and none of them are fucking with him at all.
Why with who? Trump or Biden?
With Trump.
Okay, and so let's now move to our good friend, everyone that wants to talk about Trump. So look, let me just be real with you. I was looking forward to this second debate based on the train wreck and the abomination that was the first debate. I was like, hey, second time lucky. Let's just see what these guys do the second debate. So at the moment in time, it's been cancelled. So I think it was due for Thursday, I believe, but it's been cancelled. And they say that now it has been cancelled because they wanted this to be virtual in order to protect from Trump, who they believe still has COVID. So obviously to protect Biden and people within the auditorium. I think is it in Florida or Utah? But then we're hearing reports that Trump's currently, right now, as we speak, his COVID test is negative, so he's COVID free. So my thing is, if he's COVID free, why can't the debates go on? Why is it still a danger for the debates to go on if it's COVID free? Because see, my thing about it is that I understand why. Like, look, it could still be dangerous, and again, it could be dangerous. But I get why Trump would say no to a virtual debate, because Trump knows that this is his asset. This was the thing that really turned people towards him, and how he beats Hillary was he knows that I may be this, I may be a moron and so forth. I am charismatic, and I am way more charismatic than a guy who cannot finish a flipping sentence to save his life, which is flipping Biden. So he said, no, I want to face him face to face, look him in the eye, and really just totally destroy him in the way that he feels that he did in the first debate. So, coming to Hitman, do you think that the debates should still go ahead, or do you think that it was right for them to cancel the debates, even though, from what we're hearing, he's COVID-free?
Nah, because it's reckless as hell. I mean, he got diagnosed less than 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, he could show up negative now, but then again, he could show up positive like a day from now, and he could show up negative and then show up positive. I mean, like you gotta give that shit a month before it's like before there's like before he's not infectious anymore. I mean, it's too risky.
Wait, so do you think Trump should have accepted a virtual debate?
He should have. I mean, like, I don't get why not. I mean, like.
But does that play to his advantage? Because it's like you have to wait for the delay, wait for you can be muted. Because if you're basically put it this way, if you're really strong at debating, you don't want a virtual debate. You want to be right there looking at the guy so you can really just get at him. Virtual debates with the delays doesn't play to your strength if you're strong in that arena.
I mean, I agree that you're right on that, but like, here's the deal though, like, I mean, you're the president of the United States and you have COVID-19. Like, and that's going to be one of the talking points. If I'm Biden, I would straight say this if I was Biden. I'd be like, I'm not going to debate this motherfucker because he has COVID. And just because he's trying to get himself cleared in time, he needs to make sure that shit clears the system. And I would make sure I get data on how, on the length of like how long that can stay infected in the person's system, and post that next to the reason why I wouldn't debate him in person.
Okay.
And then, and that's all you would have to do, because if he tried to rebut that, he would look reckless. He would look reckless like how he actually is.
And then that plays to Biden's points of like how you've been reckless with the handling of COVID, if you're so desperate to come in with it.
Exactly.
All right, Tony. What do you feel about this? Do you think that he should have accepted the virtual debates?
So I think that all of this is political pageantry in general. I think that they could either do it virtually or in person, since they have the parameters, the little glass plate things that they have or had in the vice presidential debate, as well as the presidential. Well, I guess they didn't have it in the presidential one, but they at least had the social distancing. But I think that this is all a point of one, Trump. I do agree that his charisma is driving his want to have a face-to-face interaction with Joe Biden, in terms of, he has the personality Joe Biden doesn't. But I also think that he's also, again, trying to save face as far as the economy is concerned. I think that his whole point of trying to make it face-to-face is to sever this whole idea of the severity of like how bad COVID really is. And I think that unfortunately that a lot of the COVID conversations that are being had is just, again, political fodder for each side. I think that, unfortunately, Like even Nancy Pelosi is holding up like the second stimulus check in the House because again, if this check was to go out, people would possibly vote more for Trump because his name would be on the check. So I think that again, that all of it, I don't even think that the safety measures behind it or the thought of, ensuring that everyone is tested and safe and all that, I don't even think that that plays a part because we're talking about millionaires who have access to healthcare that the normal American does not have. So I do not believe that Joe Biden is scared for his life, nor is his staff scared for their life, because I think that they have the appropriate healthcare plans and clearly more
So
than
you
livable
okay? So
wages.
you think that the Biden camp just don't want to this debate to go ahead, and they're using this as like a smoke screen of like health thing?
Precisely. Precisely. And I think the biggest example I can use is even when COVID first came out, and this is something that I just got on my radar was like back in February, like Nancy Pelosi, because of all the COVID scare, was like walking down Chinatown and like holding hands, shaking hands, and making like fortune cookies, like in some sort of class to say like, hey, COVID is not that bad. Let's save the economy. But then when Trump was starting to use the same rhetoric, she wanted to oppose that. And so I think again, now they're just using this. Anything that Trump says, they want to be the complete opposite because I think that they think that the average voter is gullible and just wants to see these polarizing forces just attack each other.
But Tony, though,
Been too.
look at what Biden looks like and how he's operating. Are you telling me that it would still, even if you bring the whole best health and safety stuff, would it still be advisable for Biden of his age, what he looks like, how he's operating, because the man looks sick, for him to go into a room with a guy who just recently had COVID, i.e. Trump?
You know what? To that point, I would pivot to what the moderator asked as far as like, or stating that either way, this is going to be the oldest president, blah, 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 no matter who wins. I think that if it is a matter of health and we're all agreeing that regardless if Joe Biden does win, the likelihood of Kamala Harris having to step in his stead is a really big reality that we need to really focus in on. I think then the question should be, why are the Democrats still pushing this guy as the forefront?
Okay. Corey. Sorry, Hitman, go for it, Hitman.
I've got to counter one point that Tony said here. So, I mean, the thing about it is that I'll agree with you that it is political posturing to an extent, but that is to an extent. I mean, you still got to consider that there is a level of carelessness that the point is carelessness and irresponsibility. I mean, like, because yes, the virus may not be as lethal as we think, but then again, I mean, the whole point is that it may affect one person one way, but to another person it might be a fucking death sentence. And while these politicians are millionaires, I mean, it can still mess them up. It can still mess them up, and it can still kill them.
Like from my boy Mo, Herman Cain. He was a rich dude, billions. It didn't save him. Okay. Corey, thoughts on this, man? Trump, do you think that the virtual debate should have gone ahead, or do you think that they should just go ahead with the debates if he is COVID free, or was it too dangerous to carry on with the debates because he just had COVID recently? Or is, hey man, if he's negative, have the debate?
One thing there's only two or three, maybe three things I actually like about 45. And one of them is me being a career salesman, as I like the way he's able to sell himself. Like everybody agrees, he's a very charismatic political figure, president. And he appears to be someone like myself, right? So for me, I feel most powerful and I got the most control over my deal, right? If I'm sitting in front of my client, my potential client, if I'm sitting in front of my buyer. I feel like I have more power, more control over because I can gauge body language a lot better in real time. I can see, little fidgets and things like that. So I feel him on the, wanting it in person. I think that's more of a personal deal than it is safety. And like you said, like old boy said, you can be negative one day, positive, negative the next. So, and Biden is, pretty sickly looking and seems to have something going on. I wish they would disclose all that stuff so we would know, but I don't even know how big of a deal that is, I suppose, but unless he's just going to die and she becomes president, right? So, but I think it's Trump just wanting to have control. At the end of the day, for me, again, as a career salesperson, looking at this guy who has always done that, and that's how he made his empire, is selling himself. He eats what he kills, just like I do. So I can appreciate his desire to have his opponent right in front of him. You know what I mean? So, I think it's more about being able to control the debate than it is about safety. He can give a shit less, clearly, who he infects or if he infects anybody. He just wants to win, and that's his MO. And if he's not there, and he feels out of control, and that's a personal deal. Again, from a career salesman that's been to the high, to the corporate level, and much further below. I feel like he's just wanting to have control, and he obviously is a control.
So, but from your point of view, so you feel that if it's you putting yourself into it, it is morally wrong of him to go ahead and do this. I have this debate, knowing that he just had COVID.
Shit, morally, the word morally and Trump don't go in the same sentence, but I hear you. I think that's kind of tough because I feel like they got all this money. They could figure out something where they can do that shit in person, man. And there's got to be something, like you said, partitions. Add an extra couple feet to 6 to 10 feet, whatever they're already doing. But I feel like it really needs to happen. It needs to be done in person. More.
No, because it's true. Because as he says, like, look, he's negative, but fine, just had COVID. Are you telling me that if these guys aren't like hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of meters away, they still can't have this debate?
Oh yeah, the debate could happen. Yeah, I don't see a problem with the virtual debate. I'm saying what I feel like 45 is doing is because he feels personally like he doesn't have control over as much control over the situation, and that's just analyzing the guy, over the years and going back and look at him as what he is. He's a salesman. He's a snake oil salesman, and those guys must be in front of, they can't get hung up on. So you can, so they can't be muted or whatever. He could be talking and they could mute his ass if he wants to.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So he's losing the control that he needs, that he feels that he needs. That's why he said, I'm not going to do it, virtually. I want to do it in person. Again, that's psych selling. That's psych selling one-on-one. Be in front of your customer. Don't try to sell them something over the phone or try to sell them something over the internet. I need to be face to face. If I'm selling you guys solar, this is close. I'll get to you, brother. You way across the pond or whatever. So my chances are much lower because you can have a call come up or you can hit the button on me. I'm tired of hearing this. Wait. I wanted to say something. No, you're going to hit the button on me, right? So if I'm in your face, you got to hear what I'm saying because you can't turn your ears off. So I feel him on that. I hear him on that. I hate to say it, but I'm actually going to side with 45, on that, just simply from a salesman standpoint. And that's what he's doing because he's having to resell himself to his current base and his current client base, and also try to pick up some new clients along the way. So he feeds off of that. He feeds off of that crowd. He feeds off of that attention. And that's where a lot of his charisma comes from when he's speaking, right? He's not so eloquent of a speaker outside of his rallies. If you've ever watched any of his speeches at a White House press conference or something like that, his posture is always kind of tilted and he's looking down. He's never looking out at the people. But when he's in front of a group of people, or let's say like at the debate, he never looked down, I bet you 10 times if it was maybe to, catch a note or something. But the guy speaks straight ahead. He speaks straight out. You know what I mean? And so he needs that to be effective, I guess is what I'm saying. If he doesn't have that, then he feels ineffective and he feels like he's being shorted, and then he's going to start whining and stomping his feet like we know him to do.
Okay. So just to round off, final topic here, and I think this was one that was a tweet that someone put out. So I'll just I can't remember what tweets that I started off with, but it had something to do with I think it was it was to do with racism and homosexuality, because there was a homosexual kind of incident or homophobic incident in a US Major League Soccer game, and a guy then tweeted back to me saying that you can't choose your race, but you can choose your sexual preference. And I was like, what? So then I said to myself that, because I've always believed that if you're homosexual, it is natural. It's just a biological thing that no one decides, like, you know what? Everybody is born heterosexual. And you know what? I'm going to choose to be homosexual. Like, for instance, let's say you're living in, because I can't remember what countries. Maybe it's Uganda, this African country where, like, it's actually a crime to be homosexual, and you can actually be jailed and stoned to death if you're found to be homosexual. So I say that, why would you choose to be something where you could actually be killed for it? And my thing is that a sexual urge is a sexual urge, and that is cannot be denied. But there are many people, which is why people sort of are, what do you call them, homophobic or look down upon homosexuals, is that they feel that no, you've chosen that way of life, so therefore you're sick. Similar to, like, no, you choose to take drugs, you choose to smoke, you choose to do this thing. So because you choose to do this, you now have to now take responsibility for your actions, and it needs to be corrected because it is abnormal. So you're doing stuff that is abnormal. But my thing, which is why I wanted to see what you guys think about this, is that I don't know how you choose to begin, how you choose your sexual preference. That, for me, I believe it is a biological thing. So, Hitman, from your point of view, do you think that people choose their sexual preference, or it is biological and natural?
I think for the most part it's biological because
You say for the most part.
and here's the reason why I say for the most part, because there are people who experiment. There are people who experiment with stuff like being bisexual or something like girls kissing other girls and shit like that. And like just trying to find out where they stand. There's actually like something I watched from a porn star, and pretty much she put it this way. Because there's some women that are gay for pay. There's some people that are gay for pay.
Yeah.
And what she said, which makes perfect sense, is that a lot of people who are gay for pay are pretty much either bisexual or gay to begin with anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're gay, you're already gay. It's not like, if you're gay or lesbian, you're already gay or lesbian. There's cases where, like, okay, yeah, where somebody experiments, they say, hey, really isn't for me. They're not really gay, but it is what it is.
But if somebody is homosexual, that's what they are. You believe that is biological, not it's a choice.
Yeah, like I said, for the most part, and yeah, because in a lot of cases you can't choose what you. In a lot of cases, you can't choose what you like. You just like what you like.
Okay. Tony, thoughts on this?
I think that in general, I think that it is as biological as preference for certain foods, certain things that you might even, I wouldn't even say being allergic to, but just a preference of food, a favorite color, things of that nature. Some things just come natural. I do think that in terms of being selective to what's conducive to your lifestyle, as far as being out or even trying homosexuality, whether you are or not, I think that is something that you can determine, right? Like your partners, if you even, really act on what you actually like. Because I do believe that there are some people who are, in fact, homosexual, but then go their whole entire life without acting on it because of whatever religious
society,
background, things of that nature. So I think that in terms of choice, it's probably more so about how you act on what you like versus what you actually like.
So, but do you feel so? From if you meet a homosexual person, most homosexual person, you feel that they are that way based on biology, or based on they've chosen to do that. So, I like this, I'm going to choose to do this, or they don't even have a choice. Nature is just forcing them into that.
I think it's a very complex thought process, but I do again think that it is something that comes natural. It's just like men who prefer black women or men who prefer redheads or blonde heads. It's just something that you like mentally and you just are drawn to that. Again, the only thing that I can really compare that to is like you being drawn to a specific food or a favorite color or something like that. There's just no way around it. You just like what you like. So I do think that it is a very natural, or in your words, biological thing.
Okay. And Corey, thoughts on this?
I think it's natural. I think being born and raised in the South and in the Southern Baptist Church, it was something that was, fairly shunned, especially in a vast majority black church. And but I think it's natural. I've seen my cousin, who unfortunately was the victim of a hate crime because of his, skin color and his sexuality, double whammy from old Reese back in the day. But as far back as I can remember about my cousin, he was, and I say this lightly and no offense to anyone, different than us. Most of the boys were out, tossing football. Maurice is, sitting on the couch, with, his mother, feminine and feminine, I guess you can say, influence and whatnot. But Maurice was always like that, though. He was never the manly or the boy's boy, I guess you can say. He was always that way, which over time, as I got smarter, right, more worldly, more experienced, I came to see and have even more appreciation for Maurice. We never shunned it. None of us did. We might poke little kid jokes or something like that, but we never, made it to the point where he had to go run and cry and hide in the corner. We would stand up for him before we did any of that kind of stuff. But as I got older and began to understand, homosexuality versus my own sexuality, which is, heterosexual black male, pretty good looking, not bad, right? I came to understand it as something that just naturally progresses. Now, do we have friends where you could say that there was some sort of a traumatic event in their, early on life, early childhood to early teens or something like that, that could have steered them, one way or the other? Sure we do. We've got a bunch of those, but by far and large, I believe that sexuality is a natural thing. I think it's something that happens on a very individual basis, and it's largely based on, our influences, our instincts, and situation experiences that we've been through. So yeah, to shorten it up, yes, I think homosexuality it occurs in nature.
I was going to also, another thing too of that is that Tony brought up another good point though, because there are a lot of people who don't act on those things. And
because of pressure of society. So they don't act on it because of society. Because it's true what Tony says is that there are a lot of people were like, that this is naturally what you're drawn to. Nature is nature. Your urges are your urges. But you are literally forcing yourself not to act on it because you feel that it is wrong. And it is because of societal pressure that you're not acting on that, which I think is wild.
Yeah, I think but I think though that's changing because a lot of, especially in the West and especially when you look at like people who are more like, who have a more liberal, left-leaning like ideology, that's less of an issue. Like, I mean, like people there will be completely open with who they are or what they are, what they're about.
Well, my thing is that even in today's world, 2020 right now, is the black community still very much open to homosexuals and homosexuality? Because I know that speaking as a Nigerian or in an African community, like gay people still don't even exist. I don't believe I've actually met a gay person in Nigeria still, which is wild. It's like if they don't exist. So my thing is that in 2020, is the black community or Pan-Africa still open and accepting to homosexual people within the community?
I think, yeah. So me, as you know, I wear both hats. Putting on the Nigeria hat, like the experiences are exactly as you say. You barely see any like gay people. You barely see any gay people in Nigeria. And most of them, they leave the country. The same in most of Africa. Now, putting on my American hat and living in Europe, I see gay people all the time. Hey, my brother, my half brother, he's on my mother's side, which he's Jamaican. he's gay.
Hmm.
He was kicked out of our family because he was gay. He was in, he's married to a guy in fucking in Amsterdam, and he's lived there for like most of his life. He's like 14 years older than me. He's like in his 50s.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, pretty much the thing was that he was like exiled from our family. I didn't reunite with him until like 5 years ago. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So, Tony, what do you, so do you think that in 2020 the Black community is more open to homosexuals, or do you still think that it is still a very taboo subject from the circles that you know and you're around in?
I think that in general, in the Black community, I think that in particular, there are. I think I would hate to state just blanketly that there's toxic masculinity. I think that it's a little bit more nuanced than that. I think that masculinity is bruised in the Black community worldwide, and I'm sure that a lot of that is attributed to the history of, being Black around the globe. A lot of the issue is just, being overpowered by other folks and not really necessarily protecting the Black woman and things of that nature. So again, coming out as gay, you probably gay or bisexual, there's probably this weak idea that you are less than and you're not a part of the power struggle to really, gain back control over your narrative. And so I think that a lot of times Black men in the Black community want to look stronger, in a sense, sort of dictating, what masculinity is, whether you were gay or not realizing that masculinity should be more about responsibility versus sexuality as a whole. And I think that too, that a lot of Black women enjoy being around Black gay men, but more so unfortunately as a comic relief, versus actually, really having their back, as opposed to, like white women and things of that nature. I do think that ultimately Black women, they like Black men who may be gay, but then there are limits to that, I think. So I think that on both ends, straight Black men and straight Black women both need to be held accountable for the general idea and consensus behind protecting homosexuals, and really appreciating what they bring to the table outside of their sexuality. And I think that's most of the issue around homosexuality, is this general focus on who you're sleeping with behind closed doors versus your actual personality versus, whether you're a philanthropist or anything of that nature. The focus is always who are you sleeping with kind of thing.
Oh no, because it's interesting you bring up that point with regards to, masculinity, because I think again,
I want to talk about that too.
No, because a lot of Black people are like, no, we have to look strong, because if we look weak, especially to the whites and the history of racism, that's going to be a detraction. So there's always this need and overcompensation to be the strong alpha male and so forth. And if you look weak, this is just going to make things tougher for you in this dog-eat-dog racist world ruled by the white man.
I'm going to bring something up, though, because with toxic masculinity, one of the things I see with that is that I see there's an imbalance. Like, you've got, like, people who go too far on the way masculine side, and then people who try to go too far on the muted side. And that's one thing I see as an issue in the Black community, because, like, the guys who, like, go way too far on the toxic masculinity side, they end up being these guys who, like, are going on the street corner, fucking people up for, like, over a pair of fucking sneakers. And then you got the people on the other side, they're basically overcompensating and basically, like, literally sanitizing themselves to basically compensate for that, to compensate to show that they're not a thug, that they're not a gangster, not a bad person. And I think, and another thing, and I know we talk about protecting the Black woman, and I've talked with a friend of mine about this, but you know how from white people and even from other races, they say there's a patriarchy. I think there's a patriarchy, and this is what one of my friends brought up. There's not a patriarchy problem in the black community because black women have just as much power, just as much strength as black men do, which I think is to the, in some ways, the benefit and to the detriment of black men.
So you think that black women have as much power as black men? I mean, so do you want to respond to that?
I want to say that I completely agree with the idea that there's a lack of patriarchy in the black community, especially, again, from a historical standpoint. Most of the time it was black women who were employed, and black men never really had a problem with black women getting equal pay and whatnot because it was the black man that was the threat to a white society. And I think that, again, in terms of why there's this fixation on homosexuality in general in the black community and sort of weeding out who's homosexual and whatnot is this sad idea that, one, that everybody has to be singular, and two, I think that this was part of the issue with, like, the historical context of like a Bayard Rustin or a James Baldwin. These great men who said very great things on behalf of the black community, but then there was still this shunning behind closed doors about their private lives.
Actually, so I want to bring in Heather here with this one. So basically, we're talking about homosexuality, and the question is, because again, this just goes to a tweet that I received where this guy said that you can't choose your race, but you can choose your sexual preference, and there are people who believe that choosing your sexual preference is basically a choice that you make, that it isn't something that is natural. So for you, again, do you think that homosexuality is a choice, or do you think it's natural? And what have been your experiences with homosexual people and how they're sort of treated within communities in 2020?
I honestly feel like it's both, because some people can have like a change of heart of who they're attracted to. But I also think some people are born more, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like, I don't know, honestly. I feel like it can go either way. Like, it could be something that that's what you're attracted to from birth, or it just changes throughout experiences, or it could have to do with your upbringing. So I'm not really sure on that, because I have a lot of friends that, said they were straight, then they ended up, now they're lesbians. And so now they're with women. And then, same with like some of the guys that I know, some of them have been attracted to men since day one. Others are attracted to men because of a situation that happened to them when they were younger. So it just, I don't really know, because it kind of varies based on experience. I think it can be both, honestly.
Okay, so you've known women who were heterosexual to begin with, and then maybe through their teens, they then changed to being attracted to only women.
Yes,
So,
I know. Yeah, some of them, like I would say more of them were more attracted to women, but then they had to fall in with society, so they dated men. But there have been a few that, they didn't have the same connection that they had, like when they were with a man. It wasn't the same connection they had when they met a woman and they fell in love with that woman. So it's kind of it's both, honestly. I kind of feel like.
Okay. No, but because I think from that point of view, I think that's it could definitely be a case where, which is why it's like, you may be right where it's both, where you can be like, okay, I was heterosexual to begin with, and maybe for some reason something just changed within me for me to now to be more attracted towards men. But my thing though is that still doesn't mean it's a choice. That just means that something within you naturally changed you to be attracted to, I'm going to now be attracted to now guys now. I'm not attracted to women. But the whole notion that, oh no, you've just made a choice. That you could easily just stay with, you could easily just be heterosexual, but you've just chosen to be homosexual. I think that's not, whether it's from birth or your routine or in your 20s. I just think
I agree with that. I agree with that completely, because it's not necessarily a choice like, oh, I chose this. It's more like, this is what I don't think you really can choose what you're attracted to fully, if that makes sense. You're attracted to whatever you're attracted to.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. So, I mean, Hitman, do you want to add anything onto this?
Yeah, I was gonna say something. So like, this is when it comes to stuff like, this is my belief on like bisexuality. I actually think that like it's one of those cases where like no one is truly bisexual. Someone has they may have just a preference for one gender more than the other.
Oh no! I think bisexuality is real. I think that is real. That's just like, I really believe that there are people who, because look, you see, people, and this is why like people just think that life is 1 + 1 = everything. This world is, there are billions of people that live in this world. You're not, and there are people who are Siamese twins, born with two heads. Of course, there are people who genuinely are attracted to both sexes. Or you don't believe that?
What I'm saying is I'm not saying I don't believe that. What I'm saying is that the majority of bisexual people have either a strong preference to one gender or the other. I mean, like some people may be more heterosexual maybe more towards the opposite sex than the same sex. Others may be like that. I don't want to get into. There's some other stuff I want to get into, but like it gets into some crazy shit. But
look, this is the platform for crazy shit, man. Look, it's YouTube, man.
just say this. There's some people out there that they're down for adding an extra to their relationship.
You're cutting up. You're cutting up a bit, bro.
What I'm saying is that there's some people that are out there that are into having an extra girl, that are like in a heterosexual relationship. They're into having an extra girl in that relationship. And the girl may not be fully about it. She may only be about kissing and stuff like that. She may not be into like the real deal shit of it. That's all I'm gonna say about that.
Okay. So just to round off, Tony, from what Hibben says, do you believe that mostly bisexual people have a preference, or do you believe that mostly bisexual people are actually bisexual? They have the same preference for both sexes?
To that, I would say that in general, I think that homosexuality or bisexuality or any sexual fluidness is more accepted on the female side of the house. And I think that men are held, I don't want to say to a higher standard, but there are stronger restrictions, I should say.
It's more judgmental. Like if you see two women kissing, oh, cool. Two men kissing, yeah.
Right. So to that point, even if someone was to encounter a bisexual man, I think that if you were to look through like his Tinder account or something like that, he would probably get more hits from men because men would be more accepting. And I will say, to Hitman's point, I think that there are a lot of gay men who think the same thing about bisexual men and think that they're just not bold enough to come out as just homosexual. And I think that there, unfortunately, are women who are in that same boat who just won't give that bisexual man the equal opportunity to explore both man and woman, all because of whatever insecurities on either side.
Okay, man. Guys, this has been a good old discussion, man. Thank you for this, guys. Hopefully, well, if we're not going to have a thingy debate this week with the whole Trump thing, we'll see what other kind of interesting debates that we can think about for next Tuesday. So shout out to Tony, shout out to Hitman, shout out to everyone else who's been part of this, MB, Corey, Heather, and so forth. And we'll see you guys on the next one, man. Peace out, guys. Thanks, guys. Peace.